Good afternoon, ladies as well as gentlemen of Board Game Geek. My name is Boris, and today I bring you part 2 of the epic Mage Knight Lost Legion session report, playing the Mind's Liberation scenario with PvP turned on, Rampage turned on. This was play-by-forum game number 19, played on this here very own Board Game Geek. If you haven't watched part 1, I highly recommend you to go watch part 1. The link is in the description of the video. And I promise I'm not just sneakily trying to convince you to watch more of my videos. It's just, the game starts in part 1. So if you're willing to sit down and watch the game, might as well start from the beginning. Am I right? Now, if it's been some time since you watched the first video, let's go ahead and do a quick recap. First of all, there are some things I kind of forgot to do because it was my first time doing the video, so I messed a few things up, and I apologize. First of all, Wolfhawk's skill, Hawkeyes, lets her see fortified defenders from 2 squares away during daylight, which means that actually during the turn when she got that skill, she was actually able to spot this keep defender. There were some swordsmen in that keep. She proceeded to do nothing about that fact because it really wasn't worth it, but just so you know, that is why that has been revealed. For Arythia, I forgot to draw her skills for some reason. So when she leveled up, right at the end there, she got a choice between Hot Swordsmanship and Motivation, and she correctly chose Hot Swordsmanship. This is a skill that's very tempting to underestimate as a newer player, but granted, it doesn't work if you're using ranged attack, but as long as you're not using ranged attack, +2 attack will almost always save you a card, if not 2 cards. And the ability to do elemental damage for free is not to be underestimated. Flexibility is king in Mage Knight, and you're going to see that skill pay so many dividends this game. Now, Motivation is a fine skill. Having 2 cards is always good, but props to Arythia for resisting the urge to take Motivation, even though she was lowest in fame and could have benefited from the mana token. That is how good Hot Swordsmanship is. Now, let's take a look at the situation and do a quick summary here. So, at the end of round 1, Wolfhawk was in the lead, but it is a little bit of an ephemeral thing because she does have 2 wounds in her deck, which is not where you want to be going into round 2 as a low-level character, and she has no units. Now, playing Norwus, honestly was in pretty good shape here. I got an artifact from the monastery, I've got a unit, I'm ready to recruit another unit or burn the monastery or go to the dungeon, then I can explore, I'm in a good position, got good stuff, can't complain about my life. Goldix was the big hero of round 1. He was the first person to conquer a mine, and he actually gets a white crystal at the start of this round for clearing that out. However, his problem is that his positioning is terrible, so he's trapped behind this wall of 5 movement cost terrain, and even once he breaks past it, I'm probably going to beat him to the dungeon. Arythia's going to beat him to... Oh, sorry, this is not explored yet. Sorry. Arythia's going to beat him to this stuff up here. And so he's in a bit of a tricky position. Wolfhawk's going to beat him to whatever's on this tile, so he's definitely out of position, and that's going to be his major problem, but if he can overcome that, he'll do fine. And Arythia is in last place, but don't let that fool you. She's in great position. She's got this rune that she can take on for tons of fame. She's all set to explore and see what is in the blue, or as the case may be, green beyond in the countryside, all to herself. So she's doing A-okay. Alright, now the source was very nice. There's no black or gold mana, which is awesome at night. You really don't want those colors as they're basically dead, so very, very fruitful source here. And let's take a look at the card situation. So what we've got is Crushing Bolt to replace the Blood Ritual that went away, and good riddance. This is a great card. Stat Resolve is a card from the expansion. It's kind of like Improvisation, except you can discard a wound to it, and if you don't want to, you don't have to discard any card at all, so it's just very solid. And Diplomacy is a very versatile card. It gives influence or block. Now, those are not the greatest things, so this is not a powerhouse card, but it's still a solid card to have. Now, we actually made a mistake that, honestly, I didn't even realize until I started making this video. The moderator set out 2 cards in Monastery Training, but there should have only been 1, because one of the monasteries burned down. It's okay, though, because these cards both are kind of stinky. I don't really like either one of these. I don't like Training. I don't like a card that does nothing, but might give me good things later. I'd rather, just with my level up, take something good in the first place. And Ice Shield, I just hate the fact that the advanced effect doesn't increase the block value. This is basically worse than Cold Toughness. So, an advanced action that's not as good as a basic deed card, even if it is a special basic deed card, just doesn't impress me very much. The unit offer was some classics from the base game, Herbalists, Illusionists, and both Foresters, which is sad because I'm nowhere near a village. These are my favorite silver unit, and there's only 2 Foresters in the deck, so I knew that if I couldn't get to a village, as I was likely to be unable to, I was never going to get Foresters this game. And then we have Thugs and Scouts, which are expansion cards, but we talked about them in the previous video, so nothing to talk about there. Okay, let's go ahead and pick Tactics. So Arythia, being the last person on the Fame track, had the first pick of Tactics, and not surprisingly, in the slightest, she picked Preparation. I don't remember the last time I saw Preparation not get picked first, or, second at the latest. This is such a good Tactics card. Definitely way better than Great Start in the day, because having one card that's whatever you want is definitely better than having 2 cards that are random. Goldix, going next, made an interesting choice. He picked Midnight Meditation. Now, this is a fine tactic, and I think some people underrate it because emotionally it's kind of unpleasant knowing that the cards that you shuffle away could come back into your hand. But realistically, if you're shuffling 5 cards, you're not going to get those 5 cards back. The odds of that are negligible. So you're gonna swap out some cards, and that's definitely a cool thing to be able to do at any time during the night. Now, the thing about this card is, though, it gets much better. Much better if you can use it when you have card drawing effects that you can use outside of your turn, like Plundering Villages and Motivation in particular. So, or Keeps are the other big ones. So if you can increase your hand limit, that makes this card way more effective, because if you got, let's say, like 8 cards, and you can throw away 5 and but keep 3 critical ones to keep, then that's really, really good. Now, shuffling away 5 of 5, if your hand is only 5 cards, that's okay, but it's not amazing. Now let's take a look at my hand, because of course I could see my hand before I picked Tactics. I was fortunate in that I drew Threaten and Improvisation for the purposes of recruiting, so I didn't see any particular need to take any of the fancy tactics, and I took From the Dusk just to go first. Again, as a general rule, and I could be wrong because I'm not like the Grandmaster World Champion of Mage Knight or anything, but in general, you should take the lowest tactics card available unless you have a really compelling reason to take the special effect of one of the later ones. Wolfhawk, despite the fact that she could go second by taking either Long Night or Mana Search, felt she had a compelling reason to grab Sparing Power, and so she did this. Alright, now the party got to begin in earnest, and since I was first, let's go ahead and rearrange the orders here. Here's what I decided to do. So obviously with my hand, I'm going to be recruiting. Now, my choice to recruit was either the Herbalists or the Illusionists or another pair of Scouts. Now, there's really no reason to hire another pair of Scouts because the Herbalists, which can rejuvenate the Scouts, are essentially the same thing, but more flexible and cheaper. The Illusionists, now, I could have gotten these by, for example, playing Threaten powered by a red die, then Improvisation and pitching a card for 8 influence. Or if I wanted to save the reputation penalty and not lose it from Threaten, I could have played Improvisation powered by a red card, pitching something for 5, then Threaten for 2, and then something else for 1 more. And that was really annoying because, if we'd been playing under the regular rules, I wouldn't have been at -1, I would have been at 0, and I probably would have gotten the Illusionist here just because they are such a strong and versatile unit. However, I didn't really want to throw, and then I could have done that just by playing 3 cards. However, I didn't want to play 4 cards to get the Illusionists. I also did not want to lose a reputation to get the Illusionists, because being right here, I did not want to drop back to -2 territory. That just would have been ugly. So I decided to leave the Illusionists in the offer, and I'm very curious to see what you think, whether that was a mistake. You'll see why as the game continues, why it might have been a mistake to hire the Illusionists. I don't know, to be totally honest with you, what was right, but what I decided to do was to power Improvisation with a red die for 5 influence, pitch Threaten to get rid of this card, because I wasn't going to be doing any more influence anytime soon, and for 5 influence, that was enough to overcome the reputation penalty and get me some Herbalists. Now, I like these units because, readying a unit is, like I said before, my absolute favorite thing in this game, plus there's some other abilities here that can come up every now and then. Right now, the readying a unit isn't super great because the Scouts are pretty cool, but they're not like a powerhouse or anything. So, the Herbalists, I'm just kind of like banking for the future and on being able to get something good later on. But that was what I chose to do. So, away you go, Threaten and Improvisation. The green die got re-rolled as a, let's see here, as a green one. So we are sticking away from gold and black still, having a nice rich source. And that was it for me. Now let's take a look at Goldix's first turn. Goldix, despite having the 4th Tactics card, was getting to go second. So lucky dog him. And actually I think we're going to need to zoom out a little bit, unfortunately, just to make everything fit, given the where the map is about to get explored. So Goldix decided to break out of his cage. He played Stamina, powered by a clutch blue die. He played March, powered by a green crystal for 8 movement. This was enough to hack, crawl, and claw his way through the forest and over to the monastery. And for good measure, he also decided to go ahead and fight these skirmishers. Now, just a quick note, if you're wondering, wait a minute, why are there green rampaging monsters here? Didn't we kill those? Yes, we did, but they respawned with the rampage rules. There's about a 50% chance that something, well, there is a 50% chance that something will respawn, and the dice were hot, so we got monsters respawning in both locations. Now, it's kind of interesting here, you know, these guys, you don't want to spend too many resources later in the game killing the rampaging units. Because in the beginning of the game, you know, when the fame required to get a new level is very, very small, they're awesome. It's like, whoa, I killed a guy and like I get an extra skill and an extra card. But later in the game, fame is still good. Like every point of fame makes a difference. But, you know, spending a lot of resources for 2 fame isn't very good. It might be better just to hang on to your resources and use them later for something more interesting. Now, in Goldix's case, there wasn't anything more interesting going around, so I don't blame him for going and picking this fight. Unfortunately, the way that he had to do it was really painful to watch. He took a couple of wounds. He just took the hit from this guy, which was sad. This is actually the second time in this game that these skirmishers got to land 2 hits on somebody, despite it only taking 1 card to block any of their attacks. Then he killed them by playing Determination and Stamina and Crystal Joy sideways. Ew. So he'd used up 3 of his movement cards in 1 turn, and, you know, still needed to keep on moving to be able to do stuff, and he lost his special crystal card. So I don't know, that was really painful to watch, but that was what he did. The blue die got re-rolled into a white die, so the source stayed friendly. All these cards were spent. After combat, he flipped potion making, so you can see he spent a lot of resources to get rid of those guys to heal off his 2 wounds, and that was his turn. Now let's go ahead and give him the fame that he deserves. So he got 2 fame, he crawled a little bit out of his reputation hole, and he also got a command token. So he's now level 3, he can hire another unit perhaps, and he gets better armor value, so good on him. Arithia was up next. She drew a phenomenal hand, and with the aid of preparation, she was able to turn that phenomenal hand into a really, really great hand. And so she decided to actually go for this ruin, which I was not expecting. I was not expecting a level 2 character to take on 3 random green orcs. But she drew monsters like a frickin' beast in this game. This is like almost the best possible set of monsters she could have possibly drawn. There is 10 fame here, and she dispatched them with ease. So first, she played Concentration on Swiftness for 5 ranged attack. You might remember in the first round, she kept a red crystal instead of paying it to avoid a wound, and boy did that pay off, because then she used that red crystal to power Battle Versatility for 3 more ranged attack. Clutch use of the special card right there from Arithia. Remember, the person who picked Arithia picked her over Tobac and Goldix, and you can see that decision paying off right here. So this was 8 ranged attack. That let her kill the Summoner and the Wolf Rider together. So it was so lucky, because the Summoner is worth 4 fame, but is super easy to kill with ranged attack. Like if it had been an Ironclad or a Cannon Thrower or Stone Thrower, this would have been a totally different scenario, but those were dispatched with ranged attack. The Hags, you know, with the help of the Peasants and a card, could have been blocked. But Arithia elected instead to wound the Peasants. And in fact, they took 2 wounds from the poison, and then she killed the Hags by playing Mana Pull and Crystallize and Tranquility all sideways. So using up some good cards here, especially Tranquility was sad to let go with these wounded units, and a wound still hanging over in her deck from the previous round, but she played them all sideways, plus hot swordsmanship, clutch skill, killing the Hags. So wow, what a play. Now that was a total of 10 fame, And let's go ahead and give her the fame. So from 4 up to 14, she went from being in last place to being in first place with that play. She was actually 1 fame short of leveling up twice in 1 move. And then for her reward, she elected to pick up the Illusionists. Now, I could have hired these. So if I had hired the Illusionists, you know, her choice of unit would have been pretty meager. She would have had to take the Foresters, basically, for the terrain movement, which is not bad, but certainly not the powerhouse that the Illusionist is. And you're going to see later in the game that the Illusionists were really, really clutch for her. And so maybe it would have been worth it for me to pay those extra cards to just steal them from Erythia. To be perfectly honest, I didn't even consider the possibility that she was actually going to take on this rune. I just thought it was too difficult for a low-level character to handle. And she could have been really screwed, depending on what monsters she drew, but she sensed that she needed to take a risk. She took a risk, and that was the right decision, and it paid off. Now, fun fact, when you level up and get a monster, or a unit from a ruin, and a command token at the same time, even though normally combat rewards happen before level up rewards, so you think that you'd get this new unit before you get the command token, there's actually a special clause in the rulebook making an exception and allowing you to keep both units. So she got to keep these twice wounded peasants. Alright, that is it for her turn. She spent all 6 of her cards to good effect. Goodbye, red crystal. The green die got re-rolled into yet another white die, so we were all kinds of yin in our rolls at the moment, and it was up to Wolfhawk. Now, this was pretty funny, because Wolfhawk's hand was unfortunately not as good as Erythia's hand, and Wolfhawk actually had a harder time with 1 face-up green unit than Erythia did with 3 face-down ones. This was really unfortunate to watch. So, first, she took 3 wounds by letting the Ironclads whack her. Then she fought back, and the way she fought back was by playing Concentration, powered by a green die, powering Improvisation, pitching Tirelessness for a total of 7 attack. That was enough to slay these beasts. After combat, she played Tranquility, powered by a green crystal, to heal away 2 of these wounds. So back they go into the ocean of blood, and that was her turn. So let's go ahead and give her a level up here. So she got 4 fame. Oops. She got 4 fame, which actually was 1, 2, 3, 4, just enough to hit her level up. She got a reputation for clearing out the mine. She got a blue crystal, another one, to complement the one she got in the previous round, because the blue mine was now cleared. And she spent, of course, all these cards. Let's get rid of this crystal. And this die got re-rolled to black, so it was our first yang of the night. Now, for her skill draw, she drew these 2 skills, which if you haven't played with the expansion before, let me just quickly cover what they do. This is called On Her Own. It gives 1 influence, normally, and 3 influence if you're not using the influence to recruit a unit. This gets my vote for hands down the absolute worst skill in the entire game. Because, I mean, Norwis and Erythia get skills that give her 2 influence as a base, and then 3 if it's the right time of day or night. And, like, it's a day round is a condition that's going to be satisfied way more often than you aren't recruiting a unit. Like, it's really, really bizarre to me that this skill gives a base of 1 influence instead of 2. So that's a terrible skill. And then this skill is also one of Wolfhawk's worst skills, so she was not drawing good. Wolfhawk has 2 skills out of 10 that heal a wound, and so in the first round she gambled hoping to draw one with a wound in her hand and didn't do it, and then again with 2 out of 8 this time being good for her, she still didn't get it, so it was really unlucky, and she drew these crappy skills. This is called Taunt. So Taunt lets you reduce an enemy's attack by 1, or increase the attack by 2 and decrease the armor by 2. The catch being that you can only use this during the attack and block phase. You cannot use this in the ranged attack phase. So this is just such a bad skill, because usually you're just going to use it for the -1, so you might take a little bit less damage, or it's counting like as a block, or maybe 2 block if it's an elemental attack. And otherwise, that's all you're getting from that skill. Now, Wolfhawk was in a tough spot, because, I mean, Diplomacy is not really what she wants. The card she really wanted was Crushing Bolt, because she needs some offense, man, having taken Mana Storm in her first level. So she decided to stick with Taunt as her skill, and grab the Crushing Bolt, consigning this awful piece of crap to the common skill pile. Did she have any other options? Well, you know, there are some good skills here. Motivation is solid. tree branches in the hurricane or whatever this thing is called. That's a great skill. It gives mana. So the problem is she would have had to take diplomacy with these, which is not the card she wanted. Hard to say. Really difficult to say whether she would have been better off taking a bad card and a good skill, or a bad skill and a good card. But it definitely didn't work out very well for her, as you're going to see. So anyway, she was on this mine with a wound in her hand and crushing bolt in her hand, and that was her turn. So we were back around to the top of the order now. For my turn, the hand I drew had concentration and rage. So what I decided to do was go for the dungeon. I played stamina and spent the scouts for 4 movement, and I went to the dungeon and I went in. Now, unfortunately, this crazy monster drawing look that was going around with everybody getting, Medusas and Minotaurs and stuff, and easily killable enemies did not hold out for me, because what I drew was a gargoyle. Not only could I not kill this with ranged attack, but also it was only worth 4 fame, so I was going to end up being 1 fame point shy of give a level up. This was a pretty annoying draw. It wasn't the worst draw I could have gotten, but definitely not what I was hoping for. A Minotaur would have been really spectacular here, or a Medusa or a werewolf with this concentration swiftness business that I had. But anyway, the way I decided to tackle this gargoyle is I took 2 wounds to my hand. Then I played concentration, powered by a green die, on rage for 6 attack. Determination gave me 2 more attack. That was 8, which was enough to kill the gargoyle. Rawr! After combat, I flipped my skill, Fart Wind in the tree bark, and I got a green mana token with it and a white crystal, and I used the green token, hey game, there we go, to power up the Herbalist's Heal 2 ability to get rid of these wounds and consign them back to the Ocean of Blood. So that was my turn. Definitely not a bad turn, but definitely would have rather not had to fight a gargoyle there. So unfortunately, the luck going around with monsters was not shared with me. Now, as you can see from the fame track, this put me up to a really tragic 14 fame, so that was sad. The good news is I got a pretty good draw for artifacts. So I drew an artifact, not a spell, and my choice was between a ruby ring, which was a classic artifact you know and love from the base game, and the Banner of Command. Now this is a new banner, a new artifact from the expansion. It gives you 4 influence, and if you recruit a unit, you can actually recruit the unit under this card, so it effectively lets you keep an extra unit, which is really awesome. So all told, it's probably better than a ruby ring, but in the current state of the game, I wasn't sure what was going to be on these tiles. Like, if I could recruit the foresters, then I would love to have this Banner of Command. Like, if there was a village out here somewhere, I would love to get this Banner of Command. Oh my god. Get the foresters almost for free and then have them as an extra unit. But if I don't find a village, I'm kind of in trouble because I've got this card that I can't use just holding up space in my hand. Plus, the ruby ring with the +1 fame was going to give me a level up, and that really tipped me over to grab what was possibly, the less strong card in the abstract, but the better card given the particular circumstances. So I put the Banner of Command on the bottom of the deck and kept my ruby ring. Alright, that was my turn. Next up was Goldix. Let's go ahead and take this enemy out, because he did defeat it fair and square. What he decided to do was go after the monastery, since I had just exited it. And here is how he proceeded to do that. First, he paid a white crystal to power mana draw. And with mana draw, he set the blue die to green. So he's being a big old bitchy face, not turning this black die green, which I can't blame him for, because, being a bitchy face is what you gotta do sometimes. He got 2 green tokens for his efforts. And the first of these he spent to power out Tranquility for 2 cards. So this was a man who loved getting lots and lots of cards in his hand. He played Rage and Promise sideways to crawl to the monastery, and he burned it. He was like, fuck recruiting, I am just gonna burn this bitch. So 1, 2, 3 reputation lost. He was in a real hole here at -5 reputation. And the enemy that he faced, however, was a pretty good one. It was the monks. So he killed those really easily. He used Will Focus, powered by the other green token, on Swiftness for 6 range attack. Kaboom, kaboom, dead monks. So pretty good start to the night for Goldix. Let's go ahead and give him the fame he deserves. 1, 2, 3, 4 fame. And he also picked up an artifact. Let's actually mark this spot with his shield. There we go. Now, I don't know what he had to choose from, So that will be a mystery that only Goldix and the moderator know, but we learned later the card he got was a Druidic Staff. This is a really cool artifact, and you'll see why later on. I really wanted to cry in this game, what ended up happening, but it's one of my favorite artifacts. It's a new artifact from the expansion, and what it does is, you have to discard a card to use it, which is kind of a heavy price to pay, but in exchange for that price, you get two things in this card that very rarely do you get together. You get power and versatility. If you discard a white card, it's like getting flight. If you discard a blue card, you get 2 free crystals of any one color. Discarding a red card lets you ready a level 3 unit or lower. Oh, that's so good. And discarding a green card lets you heal 3. So these are really, really strong effects. Granted, you have to play it and another card to get them, but man, is that amazing. And check out that advanced action. Wow. Any 2 of the options above without discarding cards. Holy cow, that's awesome. So anyway, that was Goldix's turn. He did not actually pay any dice from the source. So he spent one of his 3 white crystals for mana draw, perhaps, hedging his bets just in case he did come up against a hard monster. He wanted to keep the source open to him. But in any case, that was his turn, and it was up to Arythia. So she was flush with victory here. Let's go ahead and put a shield on that ruin. Having just picked up the sexy new unit, feeling on top of the world, so what did she decide to do? Well, she played Stamina, first of all, to explore, and she found this tile. So this tile's got some interesting things on it. First of all, you might notice that the enemy, this rampaging enemy, is behind walls. Let's zoom in there. High tech, baby. So there's walls here. Walls have 2 effects. Number 1, an enemy behind walls is fortified. So it basically, the designers didn't just put these walls in random places. Notice how they're basically making this enemy fortified now, which quite significantly increases the challenge of killing it. The other thing that walls do is if you want to cross a wall, it costs 1 extra point of movement. So that's that, and this mine is kind of interesting. So if it's cleared, of course, produces either a green crystal or a blue one, which is hella nice. So that's what she found. Let's actually make this a little bit smaller. There we go. So that was what she found on this tile. Let's go ahead and set out the enemy. So the face-up guardian of the mine was a new enemy called a Stone Thrower. Now this is a fortified, physically resistant catapult, and that little circle on the right-hand side where the ability is, that's not really an ability so much as it is a drawback. That is called cumbersome, and what that allows you to do is play movement cards to reduce the incoming attack. And that's actually better than blocking, because if you reduce an attack, even if you don't block it, you'll still take less damage from it. So that's a pretty cool monster. Hard to kill, but worth 4 fame, and you can do things with it. You're not just hosed. There's stuff you can do playing movement if you really, really need to. And of course there was a random brown monster here as well. Let's put that on. And so what did she do after exploring? Well, after she explored, she actually played March, powered by a green die, steady tempo, and threatened sideways for 7 movement, which was exactly what she needed to get onto this mine. So her intentions were pretty clear. She wanted to take out that mine. She wanted to join the mine party. Minecraft. Alright, never mind. Let's go ahead and re-roll her die. It became red. The cards all got played. Now, steady tempo did go to the bottom of the deck, because it's special like that. And that was her turn. So we moved next up to Wolfhawk. She had a pretty quiet turn here. She had drawn one of her wounds, and what she did was she discarded Swiftness, one of the wounds she drew, and the wound she had picked up from the last fight. She just rested. So that was all she did. And she didn't even play Crushing Bolt. She was hanging on to that, hoping to find some enemies to kill with it. And interesting point, you might notice she could have actually no, never mind. I don't think she could have done it, because when you're resting, you really can't do anything else. Never mind! I said nothing. Okay, that was her turn. Next up was me. So what did I want to do? Well, let's take a look at my hand. I had Rejuvenate, I had March, and I had Crystallize. This is kind of an awkward hand, because there's no green mana in the source, so it's hard for me to use March effectively. I could, of course, use Rejuvenate for a green token, and then Power March, but I didn't really want to do that. I didn't really want to pay Swiftness just yet. So what I decided to do was March to explore to the east. And let me make this smaller. And do this. There we go, that's much better. So we can now see the tile. Here's what turned up. It was the lake tile. So we got our ruin here, and it was a doable one. The 2 greens for a crystal of each color. As I was lacking in mana, this was pretty tempting to me. There was, of course, a wizard tower and a rampaging enemy. We got some more war beasts. Can't seem to escape those guys. Now, what I decided to do after marching like this is move on to the ruin and try to get ready to take it out. And here I made what I believe was a mistake. What I did was I played Rejuvenate to ready my scouts, and I spent them for 2 movement to move on here. But I really should have considered, after Goldix's epic turn, you know, he had a very small number of cards remaining in his deck, because he had this plus, 4 more. His deck was almost running out, and I had a lot of cards in my deck, so even though I was going first, I needed to take care, to play some more cards. So what I think would have been smarter here would have been to rejuvenate the Herbalists, leave the flexibility open to spend them later, ready the scouts, and move that way, but actually do my movement with swiftness, just so I could play an extra card and draw more stuff. Now, unfortunately, I decided against that. I held on to swiftness, hoping I could use the ranged attack, but without concentration, swiftness loses a lot of its bite. So I really probably should have just played out my whole hand here. But I kept swiftness. I played Ruby Ring for a red token and a red crystal. And here I made another inaccuracy. I crystallized the red token to get another red crystal. Now, the reason I think this was a mistake is that I felt like, well, I don't want to waste the token from the card. But the thing is, I didn't use any dice from the source this turn. So I was either wasting a die from the source, or I was wasting the token. Either way, I was going to be wasting something. So be careful when you play Mage Knight. Don't make these emotional decisions. Like, don't do stuff just to not waste things. Really think through logically what you're spending. And white mana was more useful to me than red mana. Sure, I was already at 3 white crystals, but the first advanced action card I'd picked up was a white one. It was Swift Bolt. And actually, the next card I was planning to pick up was also a white one. It was Chivalry. Really, really good card. It's a white attack card where you can basically get a really high attack, or you can lower the attack and get Reputation, or in the advanced effect, Fame, for the enemies that you kill. And so with 2 white cards, both of which I hadn't drawn yet, both of which I still wanted to play this round, getting more white mana would have been good, and I really should have taken a white die from the source. But instead, I chose to crystallize the red token. So I had 2 red and 2 white mana, and I could put away all these cards. And it was time to collect my level up. So the skills I drew were very good. Unlike Wolfhawk, I had good luck with my skill drawing. I drew ranged damage, day sharpshooting, and I drew a piece of crap influence skill. I really hate these influence skills so much. I love units. I hate the influence skills because they're so narrow and difficult to use. And as a fun aside, note that, these sharpshooting skills, it might seem like it's not that great. Like, well, most of the game that's left to be played now is going to take place at night. There's the night round right now, there's a day round and another night round. So, this is not as effective as it could be because it gets the big bonus during the day. But even 1 point of ranged attack, or sometimes even just 1 point of attack, can make all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. So don't underestimate this skill. Even if you're going to be using it in the wrong time of day, it's still really, really nice to have. So that was my play. So thank you so much, Ruby Ring, for giving me that 1 fame and allowing me to level up like a beast. That was it for me, and it was time now for Goldix to go. So what was Goldix going to do? Well, this move, I just wanted to cry. So what he decided to do was play March for 2 movement, and then play Improvisation for a red die, pitching the Druidic Staff for 5 movement. I don't know what he was holding. Maybe there was just nothing better for him to do, but God, I would rather do anything else than pitch the Druidic Staff to Improvisation. Get 2 crystals, man. Reveal the tile and then fly by discarding a white card. Do something. This was really heartbreaking to watch. So here's what he flipped. Am I going to need to... Yes, I'm going to need to make this a bit smaller. And So he flipped over this tile, which is actually not a very good tile to see, because while the village is nice for recruiting, these lakes from this tile and the other tile make it really difficult to get to. Forest, you'll remember it's nighttime, is really difficult to access. And the unit that spawned there was a digger, so it's like 2 fame. It's almost not even worth it. But Goldix decided to fight the digger, and the way that he fought it was as follows. He used the thugs to block it, he used rage for 2 attack, and firebolt sideways for 1 attack. Oh, the pain. To kill the digger. This is, I mean, the resources that he spent here, an artifact, a unit, an advanced action, just to kill this thing and get 2 fame, this was not a good direction for Goldix's game to be heading. Now, to be honest, what would I have done in his place? I mean, he is in a bit of a tight spot. Where else was he going to go here with the monastery burned? I mean, pretty much all he can reach are rampaging units. But, you know, maybe I would have played improvisation and, pitched rage. Oh god, to try to like walk back maybe and try to get up to this wizard tower, because Arythia is sort of committed to going after the mine, so maybe he could have taken over the wizard tower. But I admit he was in a bit of a tough spot. I guess he tried to make the best of it. Let's give him his fame. So he is 1 fame shy of a level up, but he does crawl back on the reputation a little bit. The red die got re-rolled into a blue one. So that was his re-rolling. And let's put away all these cards. So now he had like nothing left in his deck. He had just 2 cards, Threaten and Swiftness. So he was clearly going to be calling the end of the round. And this was when I was like, uh-oh, I've got way too many cards left in my deck. Now, what did Arythia decide to do? Well, on her turn, she actually first went for the hags. So she decided to take out this monster because, you know, with her hand the way it was, she wasn't quite able to take on the mine just yet. So she played, I don't actually remember how she did this. I think, did she actually play these 3 cards to block them, the hags? I guess that's what she did. Yeah, I think she must have done it. She played 3 cards to block. You know what? I'm not actually sure that's what she did. Let's go ahead and cheat. Sorry, folks, I'm being lame. Oh my gosh! I got the order wrong. She actually did go after the mine. My apologies. Okay, so she went after the mine. She saved the hags as an after-dinner snack. Now, she got the Medusa, which I really wish I had gotten in the dungeon, but she got it in the mine. There was a 1 in 12 chance of drawing a Medusa, because one of them had already been taken out, and this was the absolute most perfect unit for her. Like any other unit, any other brown enemy she had drawn, Guy mentioned that he would have had to take wounds in order to kill both enemies, but with the Medusa, what he was able to do was, first of all, spend the Illusionists, powered by a white die, to stop the Medusa from attacking. So, wow, clutch Illusionists there. Next, he played Swiftness, Stamina, and March to reduce the attack of the Stone Thrower by 6. And that 1 damage that was left over, talk about epic physical resistance. So if you ever look at the Illusionist and thought, wow, why do they even have physical resistance without such a low armor value? When's that ever going to matter? Well, here it mattered. The cannon throwers, the stone throwers' rock just bounced off of him harmlessly. Then, hot swordsmanship, look at this, 2 fire damage, dead stone thrower, holy crap. And then with the Medusa, what a draw. Rage and Determination with no mana and her source die used, she just coughed up 4 attack damage and killed the Medusa. So that was just absolutely ridiculously good luck. She took a risk that she needed to take, and you don't want to complain when people get lucky, because good players are the ones who get lucky more often than bad players, because they give themselves chances to get lucky. With this hand, Arythia could have, done damage control against other things and still been fine, but against this particular combination, she just cleaned house. So this was 5 plus 4, 9 more fame for Arythia. Holy God. So 14 plus 9. She again was just 1 fame short of leveling up twice in a single move. Hot damn. She got a reputation. Let's also give her that for clearing out the mine, because you get that in this scenario. And she decided to collect a blue crystal as her mine reward. So let's go ahead and put away these dudes. So for her reward, she actually drew Burning Power and Healing Ritual. Now, Burning Power is a really great skill. Don't underestimate it. Again, a single point of ranged attack can make a really huge difference, plus the fact that it's elemental damage is really, really nice. So, that's a great skill. However, Healing Ritual was really good because she still had a wound in her deck, and she was going to probably get another wound from fighting these hags. So, she got Burning Power into the common skill offer, not a bad skill to have there. But that was a really epic turn from Arythea. So basically, in just 2 turns, she went from being like way in last place. Actually, 3 turns. In 3 turns, she went from being way in last place to dominating the game and being pretty much on track to win it. So nicely, nicely played, taking the risks that needed to be taken and profiting from the good luck that she had set up for herself. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Wolfhawk did have a turn here. Wolfhawk was still around. So what did Wolfhawk want to do? Well, Goldex had conveniently explored this tile for her, but what she had in mind was the following. She played Mana Storm, and actually let's get the die back from Arythea, shall we? So let's see, that was Arythea's 3rd turn. The white die that she spent got re-rolled to green. Wolfhawk, first of all, let's do the usual. Zooming in a little bit. There we go. First of all, she spent a white die to power Mana Storm, and this is a crazy card that basically lets you re-roll the entire source and use 3 more dice, with the gold and black mana counting as wild cards. So in the re-roll, there ended up being 2 blues, a black, a gold, and a red. And then she played March, powered by the gold die, because remember with Mana Storm, gold and black dice are wild cards. Then Stamina, powered by a blue die for 8 movement. And this allowed her to go 5, 6, 7, and then use her Hawkeye's ability to explore for 8. So she still had a movement point left over, and she could have potentially gone over to this monster den, but she decided to hang tight and just play Crushing Bolt for a green crystal. So that was a very big move for Arythea. And there's a lot of re-rolling of dice here, so let me make sure I try to get this correct. The dice got re-rolled, so see, there was a black one left over, there was a blue one left over, there was a red one, and then a green one, a white one, and another red one. Alright, so the source got really mixed up around there, got some more color in there, and Wolfhawk was all done. So it was back around to the top of the turn order here for me, and here's the hand that I had. Now remember, Goldex has only 2 cards, and they're crappy, so he's clearly calling end of round next turn, so I have got to spend some stuff. And what I realized is, although my plan was to go after this Ruin, it really wasn't worth it, because while 4 crystals are certainly a good reward, I don't really have exactly the right cards, given the green monsters that are left in this stack. A lot of the easy monsters had already come out. The Summoner came out. Oh, I apologize. Let's actually explore here. So there was a Summoner standing here in the forest. There's a Tracker. There's a new enemy standing on the red mine. So this enemy, let me just talk about it real quick. What that does is, you see that shadowy number near its armor? That's its armor value. This is called elusive. So the monster actually has an armor of 6. Now if you block it, its armor drops to 3. But if you kill it with ranged attack, or if you just take the damage to the face, the armor is 6. So it's kind of like a high armor unit that you'd have to block in order to fight fair. And that dagger dripping with blood is the assassination ability. What that does is it guarantees that if you take damage from the unit, you have to take it to the face. You cannot assign it to units. So that's assassination. So the tracker was right there. And so what that meant for me is that I was drawing out of a pool of, I think, 6 tokens that had some really bad stuff in there. There was Ironclads in there, another one of those Stone Throwers, and this, 7 ranged attack, impressive as it looks, I really wasn't going to be able to do very much considering the rest of my hand didn't have too much firepower. So what I realized I actually needed to do with this hand was go into the Mage Tower, and this was motivated in part by the fact that Arythea had just drawn a Healing Ritual, and that meant that she could give me a wound. I was 1, 2, 3 spaces away. But if I went to this Mage Tower, I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away, and Goldex, 1, 2, 3 spaces away, would be forced to take the wound from her. So that was why I decided to march into the tower. And I calculated with the enemies that were remaining, I could actually invite the War Beasts to join the fray, and so I did. Now, again, I did not get good luck. I drew the monks. And that sucked, partly because they're poison, partly because I had not drawn my blocking artifact, the Shield of the Fallen Kings, and partly because they're only worth 4 fame. So frickin' A, man, I was going to be 1 fame shy of a level up. But I made the best of it. I played Swift Bolt, powered by a white die, to kill these war beasts with the help of range or day sharpshooting. Look at that clutch point of range damage, taking these bitches down. Then the monks, I had to let them hit me. So first of all, sorry, my herbalists are actually spent from before. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave that up. So the way I decided to do this was I wounded the scouts twice. So they got poisoned. I took a wound to my hand, and I took another wound into my discard. Mwah, mwah, that was really sad. Then to kill the monks, well, I just played Rage, powered by a red die, and I played I really feel like I should have another source of damage somewhere. Crap. Well, let's just say that I played Rage and played Swiftness sideways to kill the monks. It was approximately like that. I think I have the exact cards not quite correct here, but whatever. I held on to Noble Manners because obviously that would be a nice card to have on hand in my next turn in the Wizard Tower when I could recruit another unit. So let's go ahead and give myself the glory that I deserve. I got a total of 7 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my gosh! You know what I forgot, folks? I forgot. Good times. You know what I forgot? I forgot my card! My chivalry that I took for leveling up the previous turn. Ha! Okay, so I actually had chivalry in my hand, not noble manners. My apologies. So that was my deck was frighteningly large considering that Goldix was about to call end of round. So anyway, I still killed the beasts by playing Swift Bolt, and then with range sharpshooting to kill those. But the way that I actually killed the monks is I played Chivalry with a white crystal for 4 attack and 1 reputation and 1 fame, and then Rage gave me the remaining attack that I needed in order to kill those guys. And I actually just went ahead and discarded Swiftness because I didn't need this card anymore, and I just wanted to draw as much of my deck as I could. And it was really, really, really sad because I got, let me just start this over, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 fame for the monks, 1, 2, 3 fame for the war beasts, and then 1 fame from chivalry. So if I had drawn any 5 fame monster, I would have leveled up here and been able to draw another card and potentially draw out of my issues. But as it was, even after pitching Swiftness just to get it out of my hand, let's go ahead and put things back. I only had a hand limit of 5, and so I only got to draw 4 cards. Oh yes, and I also needed to collect a spell reward because I took over the tower. Right. I decided to grab Cure. This is a new heal spell that came out in the expansion. So it lets you heal 2, and as a bonus, during the turn when you play Cure, every unit that gets healed is readied, and every wound that you heal from your hand, you get to draw a card for. So, mainly I took it to get rid of this wound, hopefully, in the next turn, if only this green die could stick around. But, unfortunately, if the green die didn't stick around, I'd be left with, a subpar spell. Probably Underground Travel, just for the mobility, would have been better. Okay, sorry for that little bit of a cluster of a turn there. Let's go ahead and re-roll us some dice. The white die, I believe, actually just stayed white. And so my last hand for the round was Stamina, Swiftness, Cure, Noble Manners, and Oh Frickin' Wound. And it's really unfortunate because the last 2 cards in my deck, let me just show you, they were Mana Draw and Shield of the Fallen Kings. Now this obviously would have been great to have earlier because it could have blocked the monks and stopped all the damage. But I didn't draw it and now it was useless. But Mana Draw would have been really great because if I had Mana Draw, then I could have, if there was white mana in the source but not green mana, I could have gotten green mana with this to be able to guarantee that I played Cure. As it was, because I didn't draw Mana Draw, and 50-50 chance reason for that is because the monster I had killed in the tower was only 4 fame instead of 5, I was at the mercy of this 1 green die to be able to see whether I could play Cure or not. Whew! Okay, so that turn was done. The replacement card from Chivalry was Maximal Effect. And so this is actually the card that, whoa, sorry guys, this is actually the card that Orithia took on her level up. The replacement card for that was Counterattack, which gives you attack. It's like a rage, but with bonus attack if you actually block things. Let's go ahead and give Orithia her card. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Okay. So here was what was left in her deck. Nothing, particularly too impressive here, but she did have Maximal Effect, her new card that she got from leveling up when she took over the mine. Okay. Whew. Well, now that that is taken care of, it was Goldix's turn. He called end of round. Then it was Orithia's turn, and this is when she decided to fight the hags for real this time. Here's how she did it. They were hitting a little too hard to be able to be soaked up by the illusionists. So Orithia actually took a wound to her hand, which she was totally fine with, and another wound to her discard pile. Then she flipped Healing Ritual after... then she played Improvisation and Maximal Effect and Promise for 3 attack. And Hot Swordsmanship, clutch card once again, gave her 2 more attack that she needed to be able to kill off these hags. Okay, so the hags died. Let's give her the 3 fame. 1, 2, 3. She got a level up, which was very important because now her hand limit is 6. She got +1 reputation. Always very odd to see Orithia kind of playing a good character with a positive reputation because she's like this evil blood mage. And so here's her extra command token, and man, her hand limit is now 6. So she flips Healing Ritual to get rid of a wound, which I'll put in the discard pile because that was where she got a wound from the Witch Hag's, Cursed Hag's poison, so we'll put that there. And the other wound she gave away to Goldix because he was 3 spaces away from her and I was 4 spaces away. So, sucks to be the poor dragon. Okay, so that was her turn. Then Wolfhawk got to go, and here is where Wolfhawk made a very interesting play, which I personally disagree with, but that may be colored by my bitterness. You might recall that I was really, really hoping that this green die would stick around so I could play Cure and heal one of my wounds. And I really felt like what Wolfhawk's best play would need to be here is to go to the Monster Den and clear it out. Because if she goes to the mine, not only is that a harder challenge and she's going to suffer more, but she's then going to have to backtrack to the Monster Den and backtrack again to keep on moving. So she's either consigning herself to leave this Monster Den untouched or to have to pay basically like 6 movement to come back and get it later. She had March in her hand. Let's actually get that in there. I guess, I think last round she'd crystallized something, so I'll correct that in the next video. She had crystallized something on her previous turn. She had March, which with Hawkeyes would have let her move on to the Monster Den, fight a single random brown monster, and have a pretty good chance of killing it. But Wolfhawk decided to be ambitious. She took my green die. And then she played Threaten Sideways for another movement. And with Hawkeyes, that made 6 movement. She went to the mine and she actually plunged into it. So I think this was overly ambitious. Playing that extra resource card, the Threaten, and using up her die from the source, plus, giving up the easy reward from the Monster Den. I just don't think was the right play. Now, she got lucky again. She got a Minotaur, which is no biggie because she had determination, so she paid a blue crystal to block that Minotaur, and then she went ahead and killed it with Rage, Promise. I'm not so she how did she kill the Minotaur? Let's just go ahead and take a quick look at that. Yes, she popped Sparing Power. That's right. She did have that 6 Sparing Power Tactics card, so she had a larger than usual number of cards here. So she played Rage, she played Promise, she played Mana Draw, and she played Swift Reflexes for 5 attack, killing the Minotaur, and getting 4 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as for the tracker, she used Taunt to reduce its damage by 1, which meant that she only had to take a single wound for the fight. But remember, she already had 2 wounds in her deck, and so this put her up to 3. And you don't really want to keep that wound count climbing. So basically, she got 4 fame, no reward, and an extra wound. Whereas, had she faced something random in the monster den, granted it wouldn't have been the Minotaur because the Minotaur was physically placed on the board on the mine, but still, with so many cards, there's a really good chance, especially with Determination, whatever it was, she could have blocked it, she could have played out a bunch of cards and killed it, and gotten some crystals, maybe even some fame, and not stolen my freaking green die! So, the green die was tragically re-rolled to a non-green color, and it was my turn, so this was the final turn of the round. Well, here was my hand. This wound and the fact that the monster I killed only gave me 4 fame prevented me from seeing another card which would have been a clutch mana draw that would have let me cast Cure and heal off this wound. But failing that, what I decided to do was the best that I could. For the record, actually, I gained a reputation because I lost 1 for assaulting the tower, but +1 for the rampaging enemy, and plus another 1 for my special card, Chivalry. So I was at -1, and the obvious thing to do here, if you remember the card offer, there was one thing that was hireable at the tower, which are these scouts, and that was perfect. So what I did was I played Noble Manners, powered by a white die for 4 influence. I pitched some other card to get a 5th influence to overcome my reputation penalty, and I basically got rid of the Bloody Scouts and replaced them with a fresh pair. So as the old saying goes, scouts are like horses. You have to change them regularly. And so that was the end of the round. Let's do a quick recap and talk about where people are. Oh yes, first of all, Noble Manners, clutch card, gave me a fame, gave me a reputation. So I was going to at least start the next round with 6 cards as opposed to 5, and that really makes a huge, huge difference. So here's the situation. Orithia has conquered her mine. She actually got an extra crystal from it because she ended her turn on it. And she's going to get another crystal from it at the start of the next round. So she is doing great. She's getting crystals of 2 different colors of mana. She's got her own place to explore. She's got a wizard tower to take out. It'll be daytime. She'll see what's there. She'll get a spell. So she's got all kinds of good stuff. She's got a phenomenal unit. She's got the illusionists. Granted, her peasants are wounded, but who cares because they suck. She has really good skills. Good action cards. And she's in the lead for fame. She's in position to win the game. She just has 1 wound in her deck. Now, I felt at this point that I was in a pretty good position to try to take second, because I had 2 units. I was sitting in a tower, so if I got a lucky draw from the offer, I could get a good unit like Illusionists, Guardian Golems, or a new unit, the Familiars, which are very, very strong as well. So if I got lucky and I got one of those units, I could crawl back and try to get second place. The unfortunate thing about having 2 wounds is that it's difficult to heal them efficiently. Like the Herbalists here, they can heal 2. But if you draw your wounds separately, you obviously don't want to use the Herbalists and pay a green mana just to heal 1 wound. That really sucks. So it was going to be difficult for me to deal with the fact that I had 2 wounds in my deck, but I felt like I was in a pretty good position to get second. I could explore out here. Wolfhawk was far away, and perhaps get some more stuff. Wolfhawk had a pretty decent fame count, but she was in trouble because she had 3 wounds in her deck. She still hadn't gotten to level 5, so she had only a 5-card hand. She was working on this mine. Let's actually bring that tracker back. So she had just taken the damage. So she was going to clear out her second mine and have good endgame scoring. But she wasn't getting any spells, no artifacts. She was getting crystals from the mines, but that was it. So she was in trouble. She was looking like a contender for 3rd. And then Goldix, he was in trouble. The knight went badly for the dragon because he only barely managed to crawl 3 spaces. He got a wound from Orithia, and now he's not in position to do anything. Basically, he can go and get this ruin, which, depending on his 5-card hand, he may or may not be able to handle. But otherwise, it's really difficult for him to get anywhere or do anything. His position is just off, and he's also behind on fame. So that's where things are looking. If you want to find out what unit, if any, I was able to get, whether Orithia was able to hold on to her lead or whether it slipped, whether Wolfhawk or Goldix were able to come back and make an epic comeback, well, I'm afraid you'll just have to wait for me to make the 3rd video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please pardon my errors. I did my best to memorize everything that happened, but it was difficult. And if there were any errors, I will correct those at the beginning of the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and please leave a comment below. Till next time.